Hello everyone, it is Sunday night and we are coming to you live from Bat City Comic Professionals, which means it must be time to wind down your weekend. As always, I am your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to talk to you about all of this week's small press and indie new releases. We have had a crazy week, so there's actually even like a couple of books that I'm going to give you like a wide overview of at the end because I'm still catching up, which is crazy because last week I read 97 books and this week I'm like, I made it today through whatever this stack is. I don't know, 30 of them or so, but it's been awesome time. We've had, we got to help out the Lakewood Ranch branch of the Manatee Public Library System with their grand opening this week. So we were out there Friday and yesterday helping kids get creative. We made comics, we drew pictures, we colored, we did all kinds of fun and exciting things. And I believe they said that there was like roughly 5,000 people almost within the 2 days, which is super cool, amazing. I'd love to see that many people go to the library. And don't just do it on the day of the grand opening. Continue to support your public library system all throughout the year because it's an amazing service. Support it, show up, tell people how much you love it. Make sure you know that your voice is heard. So speak out and remind our people in power that we need public libraries and we need them to provide amazing books for our community and have that access that so many people need. Not just to books, but to so many incredible services and things like that. So keep speaking out, reminding people that you love libraries, not just by the words you say, but by showing up and checking out books and reminding people that people are using our libraries because it's super important. The other thing is, of course, today we had our awesome signing with our new fan, Max Flukes, who was super delightful of a human. He is the artist of Kilmore, and we could not have had more fun if we tried today. Thank you so much, Max. The weather, it was cold, it was rainy, and Max was just absolutely incredible, talking to every person that came in, spending time with each one, with absolutely everything, even helping like a kiddo with their homework. Like, he was literally like just the nicest. And thank you so much to everybody who came out to meet Max to get your book signed. We went through all of the copies of Kilmore that we had. So that was incredible. Thank you for everybody who showed up and not just, shared your stories with Max, but also supported him and bought books. It's so incredible. I hope you all enjoy them. And because Kilmore is such a great series and we can't wait for issue 4 to come out. Tonight we are going to wind down our weekend with Intermingle, which is a cab sauv, and we've had it before. This was a gift from our wonderful friends, the Sweeneys, who you may have seen helping out around the store every once in a while, who do all of the incredible 3D printing things that are sold at Bat City. And you can find them. Matt maybe can share their link to their website for you to request any of their incredible 3D printed goods or golf carts. If you're in the Florida area and you need your golf cart worked on or built for you, they can help with that as well. But we are going to drink this. It is pretty much a typical cab sauv, if I recall, known for its like full-bodied flavor, balanced, all those things. So I'm going to take a drink. Yeah, that's what I remember. Very like neutral, like not too sweet, but there's not really like a heavy kickback either. Like, it's got a lot more on to me, I think it leans more on the sweet side. I honestly don't know that I know it says it's full-bodied, but after some of the, like, heavier set wines that we've had recently, it almost feels not as full to me as some of the other ones. But they do talk about wines in their bouquet. Their bouquet, this actually does kind of taste like drinking flowers. Yeah, still delicious, still a fan.
Would be great with a steak.
I'm sure it would. It says steak. Actually, that's literally what it says. It's a great compliment to steak, grilled lamb, or a hearty pasta. And I was going to say I would put it with Italian food, but that's because I don't like steak. So, hey, they met us in the middle.
Rich, savory foods.
Rich, savory foods.
Balanced, rich, savory.
Yeah, because it's not too heavy, so it's almost like a light compliment to that.
It has a sweet kick.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, very sweet kick, but not sweet. Like, you don't feel like, I don't feel like I'm drinking sugar, which a lot of wines on the cab sauv and down side kind of have that really, really sweet flavor. This one doesn't. I am going to share this out so people know that we're talking about this week's comics. Maybe. There we are. Okay, so I feel like I look like the little girl from Recess because my little pom-pom in my hoodie. But, all right. We got this going. We are going to talk. Okay, so I know, first, I guess the most important announcement. I know I told y'all that we would do Batastic Awards today, but Matt and I were talking about it just a little bit ago, and we kind of want the Batastic Awards, especially because they're like the first official Batastic Awards, we kind of want them to have a special occasion. So we are actually going to do Batastic Awards tomorrow as a special stream. So keep your eyes out for that because, you know, usually we don't go live on Mondays, but we are going to go live tomorrow with a special presentation for the Batastic Awards, which is all of ours and our fan favorite choices for nominees and selections for the best of 2023. So I'm really excited. And I did kind of break the rules a little bit. If you came out like at the end of November 2022 or through December for your issue 1, I did count that in books that came out in 2023 because
the series went through.
Because the series mostly started in 2023. Like usually we're like if you're not exactly like 2023 and on, like January 1st kind of thing. But I made a new category this year for like books that just started, and I'm like, when would those books ever get covered if we don't let them count? So end of the year books, much like Oscar season, do still count. We're going to be talking about all those tomorrow. Also this week coming up Thursday night at 8 p.m. is Ladies and Non-Binary Nerd Night. Come on out, hang out with us. We get the whole store for the experience. You can do your shopping. You can also just hang out and chill in the classroom where other people are going to be chilling and having a good time. There's snacks, there's drinks, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. So come and hang out with me and all of my cool friends that I've met from these different Ladies Non-Binary Nerd Nights. And then this Saturday, the 20th, is workshop day. So if you've got kiddos who want to learn how to write their own comics, bring them out. We've got one at 11:30 and one at 3:30. And we will be making our own comics in the classroom. It's free, and no, you do not have to sign up in advance. So you can head on out and come join us. All right, so we're going to talk about some comic books because there are not as many as last week, but we still got some. So we were going to go through these real fast and just talk about the best and brightest of this week, and which is just pretty much everything, as always, because I just love comic books. So up first, we've got Kaya, issue 14 from Image Comics. And this is honestly one of my favorite all-ages books that is on the shelf. This is about a young girl named Kaya and her little brother, who is actually the chosen one for this community of people, and their entire village is destroyed. And he needs to go and learn how to use these powers where he can actually be the chosen one. And so Kaya, is his older sister, is like, hey, I will do my job and I will protect you and I will be your warrior. And so she has gone on this adventure with him. And, you know, there's been times where he was lost. There's been times where she might have been dead. There's been times where they had to face all kinds of monsters. And now they're on this hunt specifically for a young girl, or a safety net, I guess I should say, for them to get through. And as they're working their way through their city, this city that they're in, they find out that they are not the only ones that have heard of the Chosen One legend at this point. And there is a big reveal as to what people are expecting of this Chosen One. And, you know, maybe Kaya and them might actually have some help for once. And maybe they won't. We're going to find out as we go into the next issue. But there are trade paperbacks for the first couple arcs of this. If you haven't jumped in on it yet, we do have them. We keep this in our kids section so that all ages readers know that this is a great one for them. That's really empowering for them. And we have quite a few kids subscribers. But I also have quite a few adult subscribers. So if you're an adult looking for it, please let us know. Star Signs, issue 7 from Image Comics. If you've ever wanted to see a Battle of the Zodiac, you're kind of going to get that from this. Not so much like focus on the god powers that you might have seen in something like Wicked and Divine, but a little more actual, like, down-to-earth militant fighting. So basically, all of the constellations disappear from the sky, and suddenly those powers that would be embodied by those signs fall into different people. And each person that represents a different sign gets a different power. And there is a guy in the military who is known as Mr. Duke, who wants to claim all of these powers for himself and take over the world. And he has convinced a couple of people that they should be on his side. And they are kind of like blindly following up until this point, but we're starting to see some questions. And then we have our group of people who are essentially the rebellion against him, who are like, we didn't want to go to war. We didn't want anything to do with this. But if you're going to come at us, we're going to band together and we're going to go after you. Big strides happen in this issue, and some really, really big moments happen towards the end, which is why I'm not going to show you the second half of the book. But I do feel like not all of the representations of the Zodiac necessarily fit like the personality types that you would expect. Or I guess their personalities kind of do, but their powers don't really align with that. But it's kind of interesting to see like what powers this creative team has attributed to each person. But check it out. Antarctica, issue 7 from Image Top Cow. This is the story of a young girl who grows up kind of on her own. You know, when we first meet her in the very first couple issues, we find out that she's, you know, her dad went missing when she was really young, and she has never really known her mom. So she works her way up so that she could get this job in Antarctica where she last knows that her dad was, and she has gone down there. And when she gets there, she finds out that there is essentially a parallel world, and somehow she's connected to the whole parallelisms that are important and everything that goes into it. In this arc, which started on the last issue, we have actually been seeing the story of her as a child and what her dad's role really was and what role she actually played in it, which is something we didn't know that she had any connection to in that first arc. And now we're actually getting to see what that looks like, and being back in time, it's really, really upping the world building for this story and the character development. And so I'm really curious to see how this arc plays out, because this arc alone could have been a standalone miniseries of a comic and could have been a great comic on its own. But putting it back into the pieces of what we saw in volume 1, it's really going to make for a great story. The Madness, issue 6 from AWA. This is the end of the Madness, and I honestly wonder if it's ending right now, because we are actually finding out, we just found out that we are getting the return of the Resistance universe, so we are going to see J. Michael Straczynski writing some new Resistance universe connected superheroes for AWA, which was their big launching point about a virus that created superheroes. This character, however, has not been connected to that in any capacity so far, and maybe we'll find out when we get back to that universe that it is. But this is about a woman who has the ability to essentially use every superpower, but only kind of one at a time, and she was using them to rob a caravan in another country, and when all of that went completely wrong and it came out on the news, the government sends out some of their team of superheroes after her, and they end up not destroying her, but destroying her whole family. And so she has gone insane with this imaginary friend that's lived inside of her, and now she is letting out the madness. And over the last 6 issues, she has been going after every single one of the heroes that would have possibly been connected to the attack on her family. And as we come into issue 6, we're going to see how that resolves one way or the other. Bone of the Gods, issue 6 from Scout Comics. This has been a little bit of a delay for this issue, so if you haven't caught the series previously, it's been a minute. But this is the story of a young girl who lives in a world where war has kind of ravaged everything, and it was a war of the gods, and all of their bones have been scattered across the plains and across the different places. And in the very first issue, she finds one of the bones of the gods, and it absorbs into her, and now she has all of this godlike magic. And of course that means a bunch of people are coming after her, and she teams up with some friends. They end up going into this battle against all of these people, and it's a really good story of generational curses and the family that we choose for ourselves versus the family requirements that we kind of have built into us, even if we never really intended to be connected to those people. And you get to kind of see how that plays out for them. This is supposed to be the last of the series, but at the same time, it does it has an epilogue, but that epilogue is like, hey, by the way, like, this whole thing could be a volume 2 coming your way soon. And I hope it does, because the cliffhanger that the epilogue and the story leaves us on is completely and totally unfair. So I hope that we get more story, because I'm going to be really mad if that's how we permanently end it. Sacrificers issue 6 from Image Comics, and this is definitely going to be talked about a lot tomorrow when we talk about those best books of 2023 so far, or past. 2023 is over. But this book has been absolutely incredible, and if you haven't started it yet, please jump in. This is all about a world where everybody is told to raise a member of their family to be a sacrifice, and you don't know when your number is going to be called and that family member is going to be sacrificed, but you do know that it's coming at some point. And we find out in the very first couple issues why that is. We find, I guess it's in issue 2, we find out what they're sacrificing people for and why. And I say people, but like one of them is like this pigeon character. And we find out that there essentially are gods that are in this world that need certain provisions, and one of them is the sun god and the other is the goddess of the moon, and they were previously married, and they have a child together, and she is of course very curious about things, and in the last few issues she has spied on certain ceremonies and seen some things coming, and I don't want to show you anything that happens because the back half of this book has a ton of major spoilers in it, much like the last one. And that is the thing that Rick Remender has done incredibly well in this series, is you get really, really invested in what is happening to the characters he's focusing on in each issue, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I love this, where is this going, what is happening? And then he cliffhanger attacks you in the worst possible way, because something incredible happens, and you're like, what is going on? Oh my god. And then he's like, haha, just kidding, the end, see you next month. He is basically giving a masterclass in how to write comic book cliffhangers right now, and I'm here for it even as much as I hate it, because I don't want the cliffhangers for myself personally. Do yourself a favor, don't trade weight it. Those cliffhangers are like watching your favorite show and getting back in before we had streaming services and getting to that point where you have to wait and all you want to do is talk to everybody about what's happening and you're like stressed about the characters. Give yourself that feeling. This book was written for that feeling. Everything in this book was meant to be read in a monthly, like, ongoing. Do yourself a favor, grab it in single issues and get into it now and just absolutely enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie, I've never been a big, like, huge Rick Remender fan. I like his books, don't get me wrong, but I haven't ever found my Rick Remender title that I'm gonna yell at you that you have to buy. Sacrificers is it. I'm gonna yell at you all the time that you need to read Sacrificers, so just be prepared. Miracle Kingdom, issue 5 from Scout Comics. This is essentially a pulp story about a detective who is also an angel, and his job is to go out and figure out if miracles that are happening on Earth are real or not, and check the legitimacy of them, and kind of arrest these people essentially for heaven who are not supposed to be performing miracles. Well, he finds out that a person is doing, this televangelist is doing miracles, and he doesn't trust it. And come to find out, everything in the record book says it's on the up and up. And so he has to go further into his investigation. And in issue 4, he really started to dive into some background work that they definitely didn't want him to find out about. And in this issue, he kind of exposes some government corruption in his own bureaucratic system, which of course his bureaucracy is of a higher court, if you would say. And, you know, if it wasn't for, I'm not going to show you that, for his belief system, he would not be willing to understand and relate to this. But this has such a good story. It's so much fun. I love the detective work. I love the characters. Like, he's got a cherub angel that is his partner in crime that's like always working with him. Such good characters. If you went on for like multiple series, you just kept bringing these people back and they just kept working different cases every arc, I'm not going to be mad at it. The characters are perfectly done, and I would love to see more and more of them for sure. Midlife, issue 4 from Image Comics, or its other title, How to Be a Hero at 50. This is all about a person who is essentially at the point where they should have a midlife crisis. And he, as a kid, we see a lot of his teenage years, and as a kid, he is notoriously afraid of fire, known for his fear of fire. And then yet, because his dad was one of the greatest firefighters in town, he grows up to still be a firefighter. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to fight fires. Never actually does, just pushes paperwork until in issue 1, he finds out that he actually has the inability to burn and may have some special powers related to fires that are a part of his family history. And in the last issue, a mysterious organization, government entity, something show up, and they are chasing after him, and him and his friends attempt to take care of that. And what I love about this issue is they have captured one of the people from this mysterious organization, and they're like, oh, we're going to get her to talk, and she won't talk. And then his wife shows up, and she's like, I'm not dealing with this. I'll get her to talk. And she just goes into the bathroom where they have this girl stowed and just completely and totally changes the whole conversation and just comes out like it was absolutely nothing. I love the team he has. I love how much his friends from his childhood and his family currently are all involved, plus the story of just everything else going on in his life just makes this feel like a very real cast of characters, which isn't surprising because it's Brian Bucoletto who did Chicken Devil. And that was kind of the same thing there, where this guy just was really dealing with his personal family crises at the same time of having a big over-the-top adventure. And we're getting that again in this, and it's such a great story. If you haven't read it yet, you're only 4 issues in, so jump in. I'm going to take a drink really fast. I'm drinking Intermingle tonight. Again, thank you to our friends, the Sweeneys. Matt did drop the link for their company. So, again, if you have golf carts, but also if you just want some 3D printed stuff, we've got some amazing stuff hanging around Bat City. We also have their slab holders and their comic stands for sale in the store that you can come check out. And they do customization. So, all right. All right, next up, we've got Per Evil, issue 4 from Image Comics. This is one of Mirka and Dolfo's news stories that's going on right now. And this is all about a young girl who has been kept in captivity, essentially, by her mother for years. Her mother left her dad, ran away, they went into hiding, and she's always wondered why her mom won't let her out. Well, over the course of the last few issues, when she attempts to run away with the neighbor boy, we actually learned that her parents essentially gave her soul to some demon spirits, and now she is the person in charge of bringing the end of the world and chaos about, and she's going to do it all through these magical demon cats who just follow her around and make everybody fall in love with her until they become violent and angry. And in this issue, we actually find out that while she's never known what was going on before, she actually has had those experiences, and she does remember piecing it together. She's kind of trapped in a new place right now, and she's like, you know what, with this time I'm going to figure out whether or not any of this is actually real. And as she remembers some of these stories, she's like, oh, I need to be locked up in captivity, and this is not the way to do it, and I need to get back to my mom. And so we're going to see if she's able to do that and how she's going to make that happen in the next issue, hopefully. Deep Cuts, issue 4 from Image, and this is on the Black Market Narrative imprint from Kyle Higgins, which is almost exclusively your Radiant Black universe, your Massiveverse, but this is not connected to that in any way, shape, or form. So for those of you who aren't ready to jump into the Massiveverse or who are just looking for something completely different, this is a great series for you. It is an anthology series, so each issue is completely unrelated, but it is all about music in America. And this one takes place in New York in 1956, and it's called Blues Notes. And it is about a man who everybody says is the most talented player. They all know that he's gonna have, if he could get his life together and his act together, that he would be the best player that they've ever experienced. And this is coming to us all from people's interviews, essentially. And it starts with, each page has a little cut to a black and white scene where somebody is being interviewed, and then it goes into their story. And we get to see all of these people who connected and the way that they wanted to work together. And it starts out like, hey, he would have been great if he wasn't addicted to drugs and if he didn't have all that trouble with the law. And as we see each person's interview, we actually learn there's a lot more to a person's story than we ever really know. And nobody can know everything about anybody in their lives. And as we piece those things together, we see so much about him that just makes his life super tragic and super beautiful all at the same time. If you are just looking for a really, really great story, honestly, this probably should have been Picks of the Week because this is so well done. I almost cried at the end of this issue because of how invested I was in every single person in this story, and just absolutely great. If you're a music fan, if you're into music history, if you are just somebody who enjoys the concept of music, this would be a great series for you. And what I love about it is they always give us this great write-up at the end about music and about the experience, but they also give us a song in every issue, and they actually give you the sheet music for it, which is absolutely fantastic. And I hope somebody just makes an album called Deep Cuts that just has all of these on it someday, because I want to hear all the songs and I want to hear them played the way they're supposed to. But if you're a fan of jazz music especially, please read Deep Cuts. Talks, issue 4 from Blood Moon Comics. This is about a world where it's post-apocalyptic, and we are kind of similar to like a Tank Girl, Mad Max kind of combination. We've got a world where the sun has irradiated people and they've become these mutated versions of themselves, and so everybody that's left goes down to live underground, and essentially it's only a matter of time before everybody mutates. Nobody can be born, people are just dying off or mutating, and suddenly a girl who is on the team of retrieving things from the outside world ends up pregnant. And nobody knows how, because nobody's supposed to be able to get pregnant anymore. And she doesn't seem to have any problem with the tox. She's not mutating. And so they're like, wow, she could be, the unicorn, the special blood, the way to cure everybody. So of course, the people in charge want her, and the mutated people want her, and the good guys want to protect her. And so we've got this long-running group of people coming from all different angles, and she's like, I just want to protect this baby, and I just want to live, and if I have to take everybody out in the process, and it's just me in the end, I don't care, I'm going to do it. But I hope that my found family can stay safe, and if you haven't jumped in yet, please do. It's absolutely well done. Tear Us Apart, issue 4 from Dark Horse Comics, and this is the end of Tear Us Apart. I really hope it's not, but Jay Baruchel, who you may know, and I'm going to get it right this time, as Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon, as the number one thing people know him from, and then all of the Seth Rogen movies, and then my favorite being The Sorcerer's Apprentice. But Jay is writing this book, and it is all about essentially a Romeo and Juliet kind of story in the post-apocalyptic world, or so we're led to believe. These two kids are being trained as acolytes for this religion that essentially is like, you must kill everybody and you must protect us and you exist only to keep our leader safe. And they don't want to do that. They don't want anything to they don't want to be a part of that at all, because they've fallen in love with each other, and they're like, look, we're just teenagers, we are kids, we want to be in love. And so they end up running away, and over the last few issues they've found themselves in the modern society, which is actually in the 90s, and they are like, wow, I had no idea what a mall was, or I had no idea that any of these things existed. And they're like, now we have something even more so to fight for, and this freedom that we want. And in this issue we see that big battle, and we see that them trying to break free and how that's going to work out for them, and this, maybe the setup of something more, an even bigger universe. And again, I hope that's what we get. I have really enjoyed seeing a lot of people use blue instead of black and white, or grayscale, and this one, it feels really important to use that because it is all in this snowy world, and so it works really, really well because it does feel cold and isolated, which feels like it goes with their emotions. And so I love what they've done with this book, and you should definitely check it out. Petrolhead, issue 3 from Image Comics. This one is one of those books that really surprised me the first time I read it. I didn't expect to love it as much as I do, but this is the story of a world in the future where we've created robots, and then we created robots whose job it was just to be essentially NASCAR racers. And then we've gone beyond that, and we've already like disbanded those robots. And now we're kind of on to something else. Well, in this world, we have a man who has basically figured out that the government is corrupt and that they might be behind a lot of the problems that humans are having in this world. And so he's taken all those solutions, and him and his daughter are on the run. And the only thing that can help them is an old petrol head. And we learn in this issue that he never even got a name. Like, all of the robots that drove got like a cool race car name, but he was actually designed from scrap pieces and wasn't ever supposed to be good. He was just supposed to be like the underdog fan favorite. So they never even gave him a name. So everybody just calls him Head. And this robot has been the unlucky chosen one who's helping this father and daughter get out of the smog zone into a safe space. And the story of these all of these essentially underdogs coming together, and him kind of like, I don't really care about humanity necessarily, but I do care about driving this car and getting that kind of mentality. But then him also having like the biggest heart in the end out of everybody. It's just made for such a great story, and some really cool art that goes with it. So jump into that one too. As always, I'm going to show you parts of this, but not all of it. Sainted Love, issue 3 from Vault Comics. This is a mature title. That is your warning. Everything in this book is mature. However, this is also so well done. Steve Orlando, as always, is just crushing it with such a great story. But this is about two men who are married and have this beautiful, wonderful life in the early 1900s, except for the fact that being married and having a beautiful, wonderful life in the early 1900s for two men is outlawed. And when the cops of the time come for them, one of them is an inventor, and he ends up jumping through a teleportation machine that he has created and going to a time machine, I guess I should say, to the future. And in issue 2, he ends up in the 1950s, and we see he is developing a safe space for queer people to have a place to go where they can live their lives and not have to worry about what's going to happen to them. And then his partner ends up coming through the time machine, but of course with time travel, it never ends up the same. So it's been like a year, and this guy's already developed all this. Well, we learned in issue 2 that there is this group of people called the Pilgrims who are out to ensure that all throughout history, queer couples can never exist and never be happy, and they are trying to go back and just destroy everything. And so they have decided they have a time machine. They're going to single-handedly go back in time and stop these terrible people from all throughout history before they are able to hurt anybody. And so they end up going back in time, and this issue finds them in the Roman Empire, because how many times today have you thought of the Roman Empire? Guess what? If you're on TikTok or Instagram, you have to check that off, because we're going to talk about it right now. They are back in the Roman Empire, and they find people who are known for actually being a queer martyrs throughout history, and they end up landing next to them, and they are actually known as martyrs for more than one reason, and we get to see what that looks like, and we get to see these people, whether or not they're going to come together, and whether or not they're going to be able to move forward and save the day and stop all of this hate that's happening. It's absolutely great. Steve Orlando always has this great capacity to take like a concept that you've seen a lot and kind of flip it over and play with it a little bit in a new way. And I absolutely love what he's doing with this and with time travel, and the statements that he always manages to make are so strong in his books. And if you haven't read it yet, grab it, but do know that if you're a young person, you can't, because this is there's a lot of nudity in this book. And so I'm just gonna, that's my warning to the parents, to make sure that you know it's only for you. Drive Like Hell, issue 3 from Dark Horse Comics. This is the story of a guy and his girlfriend who steal a car. And when they get this car, they figure out that, like, there's something different about it, for sure. And they find out that what that different thing is that it actually belongs to a demon. And this demon wants his car back, but he doesn't want it back because it's his car. He wants it back because they have stolen the trumpet of an archangel, and this archangel wants his trumpet back. And so now they're in the middle of a heaven and hell war, and they have to figure out if they're going to get out of it, if they want to get out of it, and how exactly they intend to do that. So if you haven't read Drive Like Hell, we're 3 issues in of what is probably going to be a 4-issue miniseries, but jump in and go for a ride with these cool characters. Blood Commandment, issue 3 from Image Comics. And if you know me, you know that Something Epic is one of my favorite books of last year. It's obviously going to be talked about in every category I can shove it into for tomorrow's award show. Just be prepared. But this is from the same creator who is known as the one-man artist. That is actually One-Man Art Comics is essentially Simon's imprint now at Image. And so he does everything from lettering to coloring to drawing to writing. And in this book, he is telling a story of a father and son who have worked really hard to hide from their past, specifically the dad's past. And we don't know necessarily what it is, but of course up until this point, but we do have some really good ideas. And so they've been living in the woods trying to hide, and a mysterious stranger shows up who is ready to just destroy everything that they've had and their peace and sanity. And we find out in this issue exactly what that is, and of course it is exactly what you expect. It is vampires, and we find out that the ultimate vampire has come for his protege and wants him back. And Ezra, the father, is forced to make some tough decisions that I almost showed you, and I'm not going to. So I caught myself. He is going to have to make some really tough decisions as this battle between his former master and himself have become, have hit ahead, and there's only really one way out. If you're looking for a good vampire story, this is definitely like your actual like hardcore action, like, you know, if you're into more of the like underworld and stuff like that kind of vampire stories, this is going to be the one for you. But it has that father-son amazing story, which is something that Simon's been really good at, is putting that emotional heart into it, and everything kind of hinges on these parental, like parent-child relationships in his stories so far, and I really want to see how this one plays out because that is such a big deal in what is happening. Tales of the Bizarre, issue 3 from Drin Productions. This is an anthology series that gives us just a different story about some kind of monstrous being or weird thing every time it comes out. So if you've never read Tales of the Bizarre before and this interests you, you don't actually have to go back and read others. This starts with a mistress who wants to, tells her underling that she wants to take her orb and catch people and entrap them. And she's like, I think I'll start with people who are, you know, raiding other people's tombs. And so first little mini story goes to a group that she finds who are raiding a tomb in Egypt, and they are told, you know, don't go in there, and they do anyway. So she ends up trapping them in there in a very interesting way. The second part is all about a group of 2 girls who are like, hey, we're going to be the first women to ever go to this Aztec cave and go into this tomb of insanity, and we're going to get through it. And it starts with them saying, like, oh, we've done it, we've gotten through it. And then it goes through the story of it, and it kind of just keeps looping. And we see how their trap really plays out for them. And then the third story, she's, you know, the mistress is like, oh, I bet I can fit one more person and one more world into my trap. And it goes to a story where a woman from the future shows up to see a president on his elect day and is like, hey, you keep saying that you stand for all these things, but I know that you don't. You have to make some decisions, and decisions get made, and most of the things that I would tell you about that would get me thrown off the internet. So some things happen, but we get some bizarre stories, and I actually kind of want to see more of this like mistress lady who's trapping things. Like, I know that they're one shots and we're not going to see her again, but I really want to kind of see her just do some more crazy stuff, because she kind of reminds me of Missy from Doctor Who, the female version of the Master, just kind of like, I'm just here to mess stuff up and see what happens, and I kind of want to see her do some more. Subgenre issue 3, which is also from Dark Horse. Yes, I was like, it's oversized, and I always like prestige format from Dark Horse is such a rarity. I always think I'm imagining it, but this is Matt Kent's new story from Dark Horse, and it's all about a guy who essentially has been going against this cult of people who are the IP, like the Church of the IP. They're called the IP men, and essentially they try to stop everybody from living out these stories. And he is approached by some people who own a publishing company, and they're like, oh, some people were murdered here, we need you to investigate it. And over the course of the last 3 issues, he's kind of ended up in a bunch of really weird worlds, and it's almost like he's jumping through different stories, much like, the plot holes or the fictionauts do. But in this issue, we are finally approached by the IP men, and as well as some other people, and we actually learn that none of that may be true, that I love this line in here where she's talking to somebody, and he's like, oh man, how does it feel to be like essentially the villain of the story? Nobody ever notices that that's who they are. And she's like, well, you tell me. And I'm like, ooh, is he the villain of the story secretly? We don't know yet. But we get to find out that, like, over the course of history, there have been people who could jump through different times in different parallel worlds, and it's always been a problem. And that the IP men are actually just, like, trying to stop that. And he's like, I don't believe any of this is true. I think they're just trying to warp my mind. But they gave us, like, this really compelling, really great story. And so now as a reader, I'm not really sure what's true. Do we have an unreliable narrator who's messing with our ability to see the reality? Or are they actually the bad guys who are giving us misinformation and trying to lead us in a different direction? I don't know. And now I'm fully invested. You know me and my Shann rule of 3. I always say there's a big turn in issue 3 that you actually, like, have to read it because it's going to change. It's going to be the one that, like, blows your mind or, like, tells you, like, okay, where this is where the story's going. This was that for me. Issue 1, I was like, ooh, yeah, I love books where we jump through different stories. In issue 2, I was like, where's this guy going with this? And now in issue 3, I'm like, I have no idea who's right and who's wrong and what's going to happen. And I can't wait to find out. So if you haven't jumped in, Matt Kent is always does great stories, and he always does great work when he's at Dark Horse. So let's see where he goes in the subgenre. Taking another drink of Intermingle before I jump onto the issue 2s. It's so easy to drink. All right, so issue 2. Unnatural Order issue 2 from Vault Comics. If you didn't get Unnatural Order number 1, we actually still have a few, not many left, but we have a few left if you need it, and we still have some on our freebie table. Because the cool thing about this book is this was the first book that Vault offered up as a part of one of their new programs that they're doing, where every once in a while they just give retailers a book for free, and then we can give it to you for free. So, super cool. The thing about this book is that it started out with us thinking that we were investigating the story of a druid who was just this evil guy who brought this unnecessary level of dark magic into the world and was kind of destroying everything. And there was this weird ragtag group of people who didn't come from the same place or from really the same time periods that were all working together to kind of try to stop him and put him back into his prison. Well, there's a big twist at the end of issue 1, and it leads us into issue 2, where we have found out so many things were not what we thought they were in issue 1. We are learning out that this world might not really exist in the way that we ever thought that it did, and that the unnatural order might be the magic, it might be the world, and it might actually be just a human person that's in there. And what we thought were like druid, mysterious men who had this magic might be like Wizard of Oz kind of situations where it's like, oh, people just didn't understand the technology you had. And maybe the world isn't what we all thought it was. We don't know. We're going to go down this rabbit hole, and it's going to take us further and further into the deep, and maybe we'll all figure it out together. Because as of issue 2, all I've got for you is entire spoilers of issue 1. Because issue 2 is like, hey, everything you read in issue 1 is a complete and total lie. So, you know what? Read issue 1. Again, if you're a Bad City customer and you want to try issue 1 and you come in and ask us for it, Matt and I will give you a copy for free of issue 1, cover A. And if you're not a Bad City customer, you might have to buy it from your store at this point. I don't really know, but you should. And you should grab issue 2. grab them both together because you got to know how weird it was to go from everything you thought in issue 1 to just basically be told that the story has been a lie when you get to issue 2. Guma, the beginning of her issue 2 from Titan Comics. This is a crazy one to me because it keeps getting pushed as an urban fantasy that's filled with horror and noir. And I'm still waiting to see the horror. And right now, I feel like we just got our first, like, inclination of what could be leading us to the horror. And I think issue 3 is going to be a major turn for Guma. And I'm looking forward to it. But basically, this is the story of a woman who lives inside of a brothel and is basically kept there by being a drug addict. And in issue 1, we find out that the master of the brothel has her child and is essentially raising the child as his own and doesn't want to give it up. But she is given money by her roommate who's like, hey, use this money and get out of here. You know, go away before it's too late. Well, in issue 2, that too late might be the case. And the roommate who seemed like she was here to help might actually have gone in the wrong direction, and some bad things might happen. And now we're actually switching it up a little bit, and now we're following in this issue the roommate story, and she's our narrator, and we see her try to get away, and we find her situation of the master isn't who he says he is, and the things that you were told and the things that have been promised to you aren't necessarily going to come true. And again, while that noir situation of the crime and the brothel and, you know, these people being forced to have these drug addictions to stay there, how that was the focal point of issues 1 and 2, there's just this one thing in one of the scenes that I absolutely think is going to come into play as the big twist for issue 3. Could be entirely wrong. But when James Tynion says this book has a lot of horror in it in his review of this book, you know that it's going to get dark. And you know it's going to get there in a really cool way. And so I can't wait to see where this 3rd issue takes us and what happens, because there are some moments in here that are like, ooh, some dark things are going to happen. Some darker things, like possibly supernaturally dark things, are going to come. Crave issue 2 from Image Comics, and this is Maria Lovett's new book. Another one that I might not show you very much of the inside, and another one that you need to know is a very mature sex-based story. So this is all about a university where a bunch of college students. Let's call them college students because it feels less weird to talk about this, but it's a university, though, so they all seem like children to me. But these college kids get a new app, and the app just randomly shows up on everybody's phone like a U2 song, and they're all like, hey, what is this app? And it's like, if you tell us what you crave, we'll make it happen. And so all these people start using this app, and people start getting the love of their life to pay attention to them. People are breaking up with people they didn't want to be in. And our main character, in issue 1, he gets some photos from the girl that he's liked forever who's had a boyfriend. And they're very explicit photos. And he ends up, asking the app if that's her. I can't show you anything in the second half of this, but he keeps asking the app, if it's her. He ends up using the app to get in touch with her. Well, meanwhile, his roommate has, gone missing and, is like, I have to move away from here. I have to get out of here as fast as possible. And the only note that the roommate left is a note that says, do not use the Crave app. But this guy's completely ignored it because he wanted the girl that he was having the hots for to be into him. And so what is going to happen and what is the dark twist of this Crave app? We're going to find out, but we've already seen the be careful what you wish for, because everything you do, somebody else could be wishing for something too. And in this issue, a very angry ex-girlfriend is making some wishes that could destroy other people's lives. So be careful what you wish for, especially in those mature comics. Bloodrick, issue 2 from Image Comics. This is a really well-drawn story about a barbarian who is left in a world where there's essentially nothing left. He's been in this world that's now snow-covered, like an ice age has hit. And in issue 1, he finally sees a deer, and he's like, yes, I'm going to get this deer. And as he's about to slaughter the deer, a bear shows up, and he's like, I will fight you too, bear. It doesn't really work out the way that he thinks it's going to. And he is in this snow-covered nothingness and essentially wakes up in issue 2 losing blood and not really sure how he's going to survive this. And while he's laying there, he imagines that he sees a dragon, and then he, let me show you the dragon because it was super cool looking. And then he sees this light, and he's like, what? There's no people in this, like, in this area. There shouldn't be any villages. And he's like, I'm going to follow it, and I'm going to go to it and see what's there. And then he gets there and discovers what's going on in this little community that he thinks that he's found. And we get to learn a lot about Bloodrick in this issue. We see a lot of his backstory. We see a lot of things about where he's come from and a lot about the people that have been connected to him. What I love about this book more than anything is there was a comic in the last issue, like a little mini comic that was about how much time and effort the creator has spent on this story and just how much it means to him. And it shines through the story. It shines through the words. It shines through the art. And you knowing that situation of how much that creator like put into it just like makes you want to love the book more. Like if you're like on the fence about it and you didn't read that creator story, read that creator story because you're like, wow, I really like, I see everything you were trying to do in this. That will always be my suggestion to you. If there is a letter or a note or a comic from the creators that talk about the story, you should always read that. Because there's so much that every creator has put into these books that they're making, and there's so much of the reason behind why they do it that you might miss an element of the story that is encapsulated in that letter from the creator that's really just going to make the story that much better. And this is definitely one of those. It's already a good book, but it's made even better by getting to hear that creative story and feeling like I'm going on that journey of creating something with him through that. The Accursed, issue 2 from Blood Moon. I mentioned on my live feed that this is Big Blood Moon week, and it is, and it's, as always with Blood Moon, a fantastic time to have a bunch of Blood Moon books all at one time. In this book, we saw issue 1, we had a girl named Olivia who was cursed by a witch and needed to kind of figure out how she was cursed and also save her family that she lost. And she was like, I'm just gonna, I'm tired of this curse on my family. I'm tired of this stuff. And her brother, Jeremy, was supposed to be fighting to keep the balance between, like, the monster world and the human world. And they get in a big fight, and Jeremy's like, I'm not going to help you. And some bad stuff happens to Olivia when he abandons her. This issue takes us back to Jeremy's childhood and actually gets to show us their parents, who we find out that the curse of fate or blessing or whatever you want to say of balancing out the monster world is something that travels down between the women of this family. And so we see their mom, Marilyn Starkings, who is fighting against a kraken, who is, we find out, fighting against a witch. And we get to see her kind of take on all of this and go against this witch. And we also learn that it is Jeremy's responsibility, based on what his parents taught him, to take care of his sister. Like, they're like, you're going to have a sister someday, and she's going to be cursed with the family burden, and it's going to be your responsibility to keep her safe. And so basically this whole issue is essentially Jeremy remembering this moment where he was worried about his mom, and he wanted to make sure she was safe, only to find out that, like, his entire life job is to keep the family safe so that they can keep the balance of the world. And now he's like, I've got to go and save my sister. And we're going to see him kind of take on that role of being a good big brother when the next issue happens. The Valley of Death, issue 2 from Blood Moon. I really thought this was just going to be like a big Usher of the Dead comic, and I was excited that we were getting that when issue 1 came out, but this is actually a different story that's, not really connected to that, but I'm hoping we're going to see, based on the cover, some connection to the Usher of the Dead. I think we're going to see that come back around at the end of the series. I'm going to be really excited, and I'm going to scream, and it's probably going to be a pick of the week once it happens. He's on the cover, so we're obviously going to see him. But anyway, this is the story of a guy who is running through the woods in issue 1, and he feels like he's being chased by all of these like voices and people, and he doesn't really know what's going on. And a little old woman in a little old house lets him in, and she tells him like, hey, I can help you. I have until all of the logs on my fireplace run out, and then what happens is up to you at that point. And she keeps trying to tell him his only job is to sit at this table and to talk with her, and he won't do it, and he keeps just panicking and having this moment. Well, all of a sudden there's a knock on this door, and there's another little boy who comes in with a shotgun, like pointed at this man, and he's like, they're like, okay, the rules are you can't ever look at this other person that's coming in, you can't know who they are, you can't do anything. And of course this just causes the kid to freak out even more, and we're going to see if he can ever actually just calm down and listen to the little old lady, or if whatever it is that's chasing him in the woods is going to get him. And again, pretty sure the Usher of the Dead is going to come in at the end and set some stuff straight. Can't wait to see what happens.
It's the Usher of the Dead.
Usher of the Dead is a series from Blood Moon Comics about a guy who is essentially the Grim Reaper, but like doesn't really want to be. It was a series that came out in 2019? 2021. Yeah, I was like, wait, that's the opposite direction. Kind of like this. I love this picture of him on the back. Can I actually flip it around? And he's essentially the Grim Reaper. He runs the Valley of the Death, which is what this is called, which is why you know he's coming. But he is, the Usher of the Dead had a great series that started in 2020, 2021, and it got canceled, and we've had a bunch of one-shots that have related to him who, have shown us just him throughout time, and I really think this is a miniseries that's going to be in his realm, and I can't wait to figure out how. Haunted House, a love story, issue 2 from Blood Moon Comics. I really enjoyed this. I got to talk to the creator of this on the phone before it came out, and I was like, I'm already in. And I definitely am. Issue 1 was a pick of the week for us because I loved it so much. But this is the story overall of a house that in issue 1 we find out is in love with its creator and the person who lived in it. And he tries to drive out anybody that comes to live with that man. And in issue 1, it's in like Victorian times. And so we essentially find out that man's life comes and goes. And as that happens, new people move into the home. And issue 2 is about this new family that has moved into the home. And of course, the house does not want them there. It only wants its original owner there. And so he is trying to use the children that have moved into the house as a way to like get to them and say, oh, bad things are happening. We need to get you out of this house and like get out of my house kind of thing. But then it sees that the mother and father who live in this house are having some marital relations. And it's like, marital problems in their relationship. And it's like, oh, well, if she feels unloved in the same way I feel unloved, so maybe I should bond with this woman. And then she ends up, calling somebody in to figure out what's going on and how the house is haunted. And the house has some mixed feelings about that. And we're going to see how this plays out for this family and whether or not they work out their situations between each other, whether or not they work out their situation with the house. And, maybe in the next issue we're going to get another situation with this house. Maybe we're going to keep on this one. But either way, we know that this house is not happy. And it's going to make sure everybody knows. We also have another Blood Moon series out this week. And I'm going to... the series is actually called Distemper Chased. I wasn't sure... I think it's just Distemper and Chase is the subline, but they're both listed on the inside, so I'm not really sure. But this is also from Blood Moon. It's a new number 1, and we're kind of looking at a zombie apocalypse kind of situation. They talk about how there was a virus that went through, and it kind of made everybody sick, and a lot of things happened. They never really say what, though. We don't know if people just died off. We don't know if people became zombies. There's actually... not any necessarily zombies in the story. So it almost feels kind of like Walking Dead, where it's like, oh, this virus happened and a lot of bad things happened to people. And now some of us are still around and they're afraid of people all the time. And it's like, ooh, who can we take in? Who can we not take in? And so it really feels very much Walking Dead. But in this first issue, they meet this random woman who is on the run. and she's bound and gagged, and some guy comes after her, and they end up taking out this guy, only to find out from her that her and her children were all kidnapped by his family, and she doesn't know how many people are in the house. She doesn't really know what's going on, but she knows that they have her family, and she's not going to be okay until she goes back for her kids. And so they decide, all right, we're going to go help you, and they all plan, being a very loose term, an attack on this group of people. And we still don't know what the virus necessarily caused, but we do know, as in all cases, that sometimes the scariest thing in the world is just other people, and they have to deal with some stuff. And I love the setup for where we're going with that by the end of this issue. Rebel Moon, House of the Blood Axe, issue 1 from Titan Comics. And yes, if you saw Zack Snyder's movie or have heard of Zack Snyder's movie Rebel Moon, this is connected to that. So there's also like a novel, apparently, that there's a movie novelization that's out already too. So essentially, everybody says that this is if Zack Snyder would have been able to make a Star Wars movie, or wasn't able to make a Star Wars movie, so this is his adaptation. It kind of feels like all of those big sci-fi things. Like, it's a little bit Star Wars, a little bit Dune, a little bit whatever other big giant thing. I mean, for me, it kind of almost felt like Lord of the Rings in space situation. But this is, in this series of the comic, what we see is that a woman has died who has been the one who kind of kept the balance. Like, she was the leader of this planet, and she kept the balance between all the different groups of people who coordinated and collected with this, like kept the Trade Federation in line, essentially, kind of just ran this portion of the empire. And she dies, and even like some of her own children are like, oh, well, our father can't run this, and he's weak, and he's not even a part of this like culture, and nobody's going to want him to. And then we find out some really big things happen in the world at large, and the situation is far more dire than we ever could have imagined. And then we see them have to essentially decide if they're going to go to war or not, and how they're going to be a part of this new rising empire. And it does very much in that capacity feel like a Star Wars movie, but it's so much more like deep, like lore in this comic. I don't know how much the movie is, but this comic went really, really deep into lore, and so that's why I'm like, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings in space, because you've got all the ruling factions, you've got all the different kinds of people and aliens and things like that. And so it made me want to know what the movie is actually like, because it seemed like there was a lot to the movie. And it does say that it's science fantasy, not science fiction on the back. Like, it says it's an epic science fantasy, and that is the best description that I could possibly give to this. So if you watched the movie and you enjoyed it, know that there's a comic book and you should jump into it. Cruella de Vil, issue 1 from Dynamite, and their new line of Disney villains that they've had. We've had Maleficent, we've had Scar, we've had Hades, and now we have Cruella de Vil. And what I like about this one is that the Maleficent story, the Scar story, and even the Hades story all seem to take place before the iconic movie role that they're known for. But this actually takes place after 101 Dalmatians. And so in this, Cruella has just gotten out of jail, and as a high society person, she's trying to essentially rebuild her brand, and is like, oh, I never went to hurt a dog, I would never do that, that was like fake news, I was let off because I don't care. And so she goes around and she's doing all this philanthropy, and her assistant is like, hey, Miss DeVille, you need to stop giving away money, because you've kind of given away too much of what you have left. And he's like, you should have an auction and a big charity party. And, so she decides she's going to do that. And guess who decides they're going to crash it? Some dogs. And so Cruella has a very angry situation with some dogs. We know at the beginning of the issue that it's going to lead us towards what's going to happen at the end of the story. And so this is like, hey, we start at the end, we're going to come to the front and kind of see how we got there. But if you were ever like, hey, Cruella de Vil is truly a villain because she goes after helpless little animals, the helpless little animals seem like they might be getting back. Speaking of animals getting back at people, Acid Chimp versus Business Dog from the pages of the world of My Bad, we are given a new fun adventure in Mark Russell's crazy world. And we have so many great things in this. So if you don't know Acid Chimp, he is King Emperor's sidekick, and he is literally a chimp that's obsessed with acid and throwing acid at people's faces.
He's a villain.
And he is a villain. And I mean, obviously his name's Acid Chimp. Like, he's got to be a bad guy, right? And then so in this story, we see an organization, like these people who are coming in and they're like, oh, we have to steal Acid Chimp because we were hired to do so. And so you get a hilarious thing of them trying to kidnap Acid Chimp. And they're under the impression that, like, Acid Chimp is a bad guy that they're supposed to be collecting. But also Acid Chimp has just recently become obsessed with Home Alone. So he attempts to Home Alone the situation to keep them from getting him. Only for us to find out that it is because of Business Dog that they have been kidnapped. Some people who are trying to take out Business Dog, who is the world's richest dog, and quite frankly, just an absolute great businessman. He kind of has like a show like Shark Tank, but he just goes up to a bowl with your business's name on it, and if he eats out of your bowl, you're the one that like loses all your funding, and you're like essentially deep, like people are told not to invest in your company, and so your stocks plummet and all this bad stuff happens to you if Business Dog eats the bowl with your name in it. So these people are trying to get back at Business Dog, and so they attempt to dump Acid Chimp on him, but they make a nice little friendship, and then the story kind of goes from there. And you get 3 stories in one in that, and it's fantastic because I love Acid Chimp so much. He's hilarious. Adventure Man Ghost Lights, issue 1 from Image Comics. If you didn't read Adventure Man, you're going to be slightly lost, but not really, because it kind of gives you everything you need to know. But this is an all-new story in the Adventure Man world, and it follows our female character, who is essentially our Adventure Man at this point, and she has been captured by a villain who is trying to take her out and believes that it should be easy because he's got these ghost light power, and no Adventure Man has ever been able to stand against him because all Adventure Men stand alone and they don't have anything. And of course she doesn't stand alone. She's got a team of people who are coming to help her. It's honestly great classic pulp fun in modern style. Matt Fraction writes this book. Terry Dodson does the art. The first volume was so great. This is a 2-issue mini that just brings back that world for a little bit and gives us just a fun, fantastic group of female characters who are just going to really tear up this entire bad guy in a whole new way, and I can't wait to see how that goes down. But if you enjoy all the classic like adventuring pulp stories, you're gonna want to read this one for sure. All right, I got 2 picks for you. Well, you know what? I'm gonna lie. I'm gonna have 3 picks for you, and I haven't written it down yet, so I can do that. Picks of the week that we've got for you. My favorite books of the week, which were, pretty much all of those, but also the main ones. First up, we have Fireflies issue 4. Nope, not Fireflies, Fish Flies. Fish Flies issue 4 from Image Comics. This is Jeff Lemire doing what Jeff Lemire does, writing, art, lettering, coloring, all of it. I love when he does it all. Because he always builds the weirdest, most unique, beautiful stories. And so this is all about a little girl, essentially, who is the weird, snotty kid in class, and she has no friends. Everybody bullies her. Everybody picks on her. And she ends up bonding with a giant bug. And where that giant bug comes from is actually like the whole point of the story, but it's from a person who's made some bad decisions. And in this issue, we're actually seeing this investigation towards the person who made the bad decisions really starting to come into play. But we're also seeing just that beautiful friendship between the young girl and her bug just continue to grow. And she has this incredible ability to just tell him exactly what she's thinking, and it just feels so real and so beautiful. And in here she talks about how you know, when she's always thought that she was just ugly and gross and that nobody would like her, and maybe if she wouldn't have been so ugly and gross, her mama wouldn't have left her, and maybe if she wasn't so ugly and gross, her daddy wouldn't be so mean, and maybe if she wasn't ugly and gross, she'd make friends at school. And she's like, but you know what? You're ugly and gross, and we could be friends because we're both ugly and gross. And so they just have this beautiful story, and you just want to root for them, but you know where he comes from and you know where we're going, essentially, because this isn't could not possibly end well for any of them. And I think the way I said it on my live 5 is, this is one of the most beautiful friendships that should never exist, but does in the most perfect way, and it's something only Jeff Lemire could do for us. And then I love this magical My Neighbor Totoro homage cover that you get, which really just kind of encapsulates this magical friendship that these two have made in the most strange way. If you've not read Fish Flies yet, just grab it. Grab all 4 issues. Don't wait. It's amazing.
And if you really are unsure, we have a free comic book day issue.
We do. There was a free comic book day issue in Free Comic Book Day 2023. We still have them. They are still available at the front of the store. So if you are a Bat City customer, you can come pick one up and test it out. I read that and was like, I grabbed it and was like, this is going to be one of my favorite Free Comic Book Day issues. I read it and was like, can't wait for this issue, like this series to launch, and have put almost every single, if not every single issue of this book in my picks of the week so far, because it's fantastic. So grab it, and that I know is going to Matt because he didn't get to read it yet. Speaking of things Matt and I are going to read in excitement, Dead Box. This is the trade paperback of Dead Box. I am so excited this is finally out. This is from Vault Comics. Dead Box, also by Mark Russell, was a series that was coming out in 2020, 2021, and never actually got to finish. And Mark Russell even called it his cursed series that never got to happen. But in this book, basically a young girl who's in college finds out that her dad isn't doing well, so she goes home to take care of him and to run his little convenience store. And in the process, finds out that he has a cursed red box machine, essentially, that she doesn't know is cursed. She just knows that it has a bunch of D-level movies, essentially, because she's like, they're worse than B-level movies. But every time somebody rents one of these movies, the things that happen in the movie kind of parallel in their own lives and in this town. And she is also a psychology student, and so it's like the thing that she's studying in psychology mixes with the thing that is happening in this B movie, which mixes in the thing that is happening in the town. And it's one of those, like, there are so many layers to this. Only Mark Russell could have come up with this and pulled it off, and it's so freaking fantastic. I cannot wait to see how it actually ends, because we never got to see the last couple issues, but now we have the whole story right here.
So is it only collected in trade? It wasn't published in issues? It
was only collected in trade. You could not, the last few issues never finished, and so this is...
How many more do we get?
I think it's 5 or 6 issues total, and I think we only got 3 that actually printed. It does not. It does not say on the back. It just says that it's the whole series.
Because only 3 came out?
I think there was 3 that came out, and it... looks like, if you guys don't mind while I flip here, and yeah, we had 1, 2, so there's 5 issues. There's 5 issues, and yeah, I think we only got up to 3 that came out in real life, I think. Yeah, I never saw 4 or 5. I remember ordering them and them never arriving and being so disappointed. Yeah, I never saw that one. Ooh. I don't even know if I saw 3, so maybe we... Oh, no, we got 3. We got 3. So yeah, 1, 2, and 3 came out, but we never got 4 and 5, and so now we're going to get those last couple issues I'm super excited about. Yeah, take that, because that's going with us for sure. And then, lastly, picks of the week, we have Swan Songs, issue 6, from W. Maxwell Prince and Image Comics. This is... if you know W. Maxwell Prince from Ice Cream Man, you know that when he was doing Ice Cream Man, a big thing is he made Dr. Seuss not only homage covers, but homage stories, where he used the medium to essentially create a Dr. Seuss style story. Well, he decided on Swan Songs that he was going to do the same thing, but with Shel Silverstein. And I love this because Swan Songs has not connected to the Ice Cream Man universe yet, but we do get this little thing right when you open it, and if you're a fan of Ice Cream Man, you'll recognize the man himself. When W. Maxwell Prince did Haha, it was like, oh, this kind of just feels like one giant issue of Ice Cream Man, and then we got a connecting piece. Well, this is kind of the same thing. So far, these 6 issues, the last 5 have kind of felt like they could be an Ice Cream Man, and here we are. This is actually the story of a couple who makes some, the husband makes some bad choices, and it leaves the wife in peril. And she has to basically go along and come up with a way for her to survive and for her to take care of her child. And we see the choices that she makes to try to do that are not any better for anybody, but she's kind of like in the dire straits. And so she just makes some choices, and it ends up leading their child down another path. It wasn't the choice that anybody wanted them to go on. So we just kind of see how every person's decisions can lead to another person's decisions, and those person's decisions can lead to another person's decisions. And where the sidewalk actually ends, who knows? But if you're reading a W. Maxwell Prince issue, where the sidewalk ends is usually in death, destruction, and existential dread. I love this because W. Maxwell Prince's biggest thing that he does, not only is he a fantastic writer, but one of the biggest things he does is he plays with the medium in unique and creative ways. And making your entire comic book just essentially a Shel Silverstein style story is an absolutely great way to do it. He did the whole thing in verse. It still flows like page to page. Like, unlike Shel Silverstein where the poems aren't necessarily connected, this is actually completely connected. It's like, okay, this happened in this poem, and then it's like you read the next poem and it's the reaction to the poem previously. And so you still get a sequential story, which he's never dropped in any of his issues. He's always, no matter how he's played with the medium, kept the sequential storytelling of comics going, but he does it in a unique way. And so putting verse in there, still moving sequentially forward, and then doing those homages to Shel Silverstein, phenomenal, great piece of work. Already can tell you this should make it onto people's like best single issue for 2024 selections, because so well done. And I'm going to put that right there as well. All right, we've got a couple of other things in stock. We're going to fly through these really quickly. Starting with the ones that I didn't get to read, but I love these series, so I want to throw them out there. The Hollywood Special, this is essentially all about these people who are on a war bonds tour. They end up in a place that's very much like Silent Hill. When they get there, a collapse at the mine has happened, and now there's some very dark, terrifying things that are happening. This is part of IDW's Dark Spaces imprint, which is overseen by Scott Snyder and just kind of focuses on dark places in our world. We also have Masterpiece issue 2 from Brian Michael Bendis and Dark Horse, and this is all about a girl who just recently learned that she may be a secret weapon that her parents knew about and created, but they abandoned her or died. We're not really sure. And now she's kind of wondering if she was supposed to know all of this all along. Assassin's Apprentice Volume 2, Issue 2. I love this story. This is all about a kid who is being trained to be an assassin because he is the illegitimate child of one of the princes in a world where they don't want to claim him, but they also don't want to let him run free. And he, in this volume, is finally on some missions to get intel or assassinate people. Exo Man of War Unconquered. This is finally back from Valiant or Alien Books, as their new distribution company is called. And this is
Valiant on.
I know, but most everything else coming out has actually had the Alien Books logo on it. They just said this is going to be one of the ones that they print in single issue. Everything else is actually going to $9.99 oversized books. So you're going to get like Valiant square bounds, essentially, coming your way, which will usually have 3 issues in each of them. And this is Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad's story with Liam Sharp on art that they started last year, and it kind of got delayed while Valiant was moving over to Alien Books. But we're happy to see that this is finally getting printed and out our way so that we can finish up the Exo Man of War story. Alice Cooper, issue 4 from Dynamite Comics. Alice Cooper is having to fight Satan, and the way he's doing it is by rocking out, because Satan is jealous of all the rock stars' talent and wants to fight them to see who's the best musician. Devil went down to Florida, apparently, and Alice Cooper is going to take him out. Abbott 1979, issue 3 from Boom Studios. If you've followed along the Abbott series over the course of time, this is about a woman who has the ability to stop darkness. She fights the Umbra, which is the darkness, and she uses it with light, but now that she's gotten older, she can no longer access the light herself, and darkness is coming for everybody, and she might not be able to stop it. Wesley Dodd's Sandman, issue 4 from DC Comics. This has been a fan favorite, bringing back the JSA's Sandman, Wesley Dodds himself. Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man, issue 2 from Marvel Comics. The Century, issue 2 from Marvel Comics. Also, if you didn't know, Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. So if you have some people in your life who are big fans of the Spider-Verse movies and are loving Miguel O'Hara, there is a new series that is happening right now, and it's coming out weekly. Spider-Gwen Smash, issue 2. I'm always excited to see more Spider-Gwen, and the fact that she's teaming up with Dazzler in this is going to be great. Outsiders, issue 3 from DC Comics. Sabretooth part 1 of the Wolverine story. New Sabretooth. We're having a whole big battle going on. Some things are coming down, but this is Wolverine issue 41. Transformers, issue 4 from Image Skybound. This is a part of our new Energon universe. We are getting our crossovers between G.I. Joe and Transformers. If you didn't get Duke issue 1, Second Prince just went up for order today, so there are more on the way for that, for sure. But you are going to want to read this Transformers book because it is the key to all of it. And Daniel Warren Johnson is just doing a fantastic job all the way around on it. Thunderbolts, issue 2 from Marvel. Very excited to see Bucky and Natasha possibly getting back together in this. Big fan of Winter Soldier. Huge fan of Black Widow. Love them together, and I love that we're also seeing that symbiote Black Widow kind of playing some roles. Action Comics issue 1061. Possibly a big death in this issue. Not going to spoil that any more than I could. Sensational She-Hulk issue 4. Rainbow Rowell's second volume of the She-Hulk story that they started with just She-Hulk. Now it's on to Sensational She-Hulk. And we got our Wolverine 50th anniversary homage cover with Wolverine as, the Secret Wars Spider-Man. Luke Cage Gang War issue 3. If you are reading this Gang War, if you are not currently up to date on Gang War, but you want to read Gang War, this goes until March, so you need to grab a copy of anything with the Gang War header on it and get your checklist from the back so you know which books you should be reading from Marvel. It's a lot of your street level New York heroes and Spider-Man. Green Lantern issue 7. Also possibly a big death in this one too. See that? One will die. There was some big talk on who it was going to be this week. Speed Force issue 3. This is your non-main Flash book. This is disconnected from that specific, like not connected completely, but it's about what we saw happening in the Flash books, kind of spurring out of there. That's not this week. Blade issue 7. This is also your Wolverine 50th anniversary homage cover with that Silver Surfer cover. But if you haven't been reading Blade, this is going to bring some big things into it for you. Captain Marvel issue 4 for the newest run of Captain Marvel. I know Matt's been reading this one recently because he's a big Captain Marvel fan, and so am I. So I'm glad to see she's got a whole new title going on right now. Avengers issue 9, also with that Wolverine homage cover, and of course this is the homage to Vision. And then another trade paperback that we've got in stock this week that also could have easily been a pick of the week, but we have the completed first volume of Children of the Black Sun. Still think we're going to see more of this. I really hope that we see some more of this, but if you are a fan of Village of the Damned or any of those books where or movies where kids kind of are just like really creepy and something happens, it's going to be a great one for you because we had an eclipse that blacked out the sun, and all the kids who were conceived under that are born and are essentially very, very evil. And then there is another black sun, and all the kids who are born under that seem to have the same kind of mysterious powers and connection pieces, and people are wondering if they're going to be evil. There's a lot of projection and a lot of racism and a lot of terrible things, but another black sun is on its way, and we are going to see if some more bad stuff happens once those kids are born, or if they come to full power. It's a great book. If you haven't read it yet, just grab that collected edition and get started. And since I brought up our wonderful friends the Sweeneys, who gave us this bottle of wine that we're drinking today, Matt brought in some of the cool slab holders that they brought. So these are, ooh, I got a slab to put in there. So these are their 3D printed slab holders, and they do customize, so you can get, you know, your favorite characters. There's a Punisher one that I'm completely blocking the logo on. There's Punisher one. We have a Daredevil one, which is super cool. Is that the Daredevil one that I'm holding up? Okay, cool. I'm looking at it from behind. It doesn't actually say Daredevil on it, so I'm trying to guess. And then they have this wicked cool Bad City one, and all you do is you pop your slab into the stand. It's got these little feetsies on it, so that keeps it from falling over, keeps your slab nice and secure, and you can display them. It's really cool. They make these, and then they make some that can hold multiple slabs at a time. They custom make, so if you have, you know, your own online show, or you have a favorite character that you want to put on your book, they can custom make those labels and logos and stuff just for you. But of course, we do sell these Bat City ones as well as a bunch of different characters. So if you're interested, we have them at the CGC desk in our store. Or you can find the link at the beginning of this conversation on Facebook and check it out. So again, we're drinking Intermingle tonight. It was a great week. Thanks again to the Lakewood Ranch Library for having us out for their grand opening. Thanks to Max Fuchs for coming today, and for everybody who came out to see him. It was an absolute blast. We will see you this Wednesday for New Comic Book Day. We'll see all of the ladies and non-binary nerds for Lady Non-Binary Nerd Nights on Thursday at 8 p.m. And of course, we'll see you for workshops if you've got kiddos this Saturday at 11:30 and 3:30. It's going to be a blast. Make sure you're following along on our Facebook page for all of our event updates, because there are so many coming up. Until then, I hope you found some great books that you loved tonight. And as always, happy reading, everyone. Bye.